One day, artificial intelligence or AI will become so advanced that they will be indistinguishable from actual humans. When that time comes, how will society react to machines when they become as smart or even smarter than us? Let's take a moment and talk about it. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Moment of Zen, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm your host, as always, Johnson Zen. And before we begin, I want to thank you all so much for your support. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. And this week, we have a very special guest. The very first guest on this podcast, you've probably heard him mentioned before. He's been supporting me since day one. He's the man, the myth, the legend himself, my brother. All right, we're recording. Can you say something?
Yeah,
Okay, it looks like you're recording as well.
Kadum.
Um, all right, let's go. So, why don't you introduce yourself to the interwebs?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? It is I, the legend himself, but I also go by San.
All right. So this week I want to talk about robots and AI. I want to discuss humanity's inevitable relationship with robots. And in the future, let's say 40, 50 years from now, when robots become so smart and integrated into society, how will humanity react and treat them? There are a bunch of unknown variables when it comes to predicting the future. So I want to first kind of define the baseline robot for today's discussion. So let's
Mhm.
assume the following. Number one, it's a humanoid robot. So what that means is they look, move, and talk like a normal human. And for the most part, they're indistinguishable from humans.
Okay.
Number two, they're highly intelligent. That means they can think for themselves to solve problems. They can't act by themselves without human commands. So they'll never do anything unless they're told by their owner.
hmm
But they will have sort of default programming in them so that you don't have to always tell them to do something. Like, let's say they're a cleaning robot, they'll default to go back to cleaning your house or whatever. And number three is robots will be a common commodity. And what that means is that almost every household has at least one robot. And it's as common as people having smartphones today. And so those are the three assumptions we're going to be making for this episode. And again, they are humanoid robot, they're highly intelligent, and they're a common commodity. So is there anything else you like to add to those assumptions?
No, that's good.
All right, so you ready to get this started?
All right, let's
The main
go.
discussion. All right. So first of all, I want to ask you: do you think the Constitution or Bill of Rights applies to robots? I guess for in this case, the most applicable one that I could think of is the 14th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment essentially defines citizenship. So, do you think we can consider robots as people?
um, I don't think that we should consider robots as people. One, I think the term "people" should be reserved for humans. Um, that's how we would
Wait,
distinguish.
so let me stop you there. The Supreme Court has actually ruled corporations are technically people as well. There's a Supreme Court case. I don't know if you're familiar with it, called
Mm-mm.
Citizens United versus the FEC or Federal Election Commission. And basically, that court case ruled that corporations have a sort of right to free speech, and they can donate money to elections as a sort of symbolic speech. So does that kind of does that change your mind if on whether or not robots can be considered as people?
Sure, if the Supreme Court rules that robots are and can be considered people, then yeah. But if there is no ruling, then no.
Wait, so basically what you're saying is there has to be a Supreme Court ruling, but usually the Supreme Court comes afterwards. Like if there's a like a lawsuit or a challenge, that comes, then the Supreme Court steps in and they are the sort of final decider or not. When robots do become like a common commodity, let's say like the first robot, is that considered a human?
The first robot, probably not. I would say it's like you said. It has to happen enough times where it gets the Supreme Court's attention to make it into a rule. Um,
So basically what you're saying is you
until
want the Supreme
then,
Court to decide.
not for them to decide, but for them to, I guess, legitimize that robots are considered people or can be considered people. I feel like I'm probably gonna be against it.
Hmm.
Robots are not considered people, and they shouldn't be considered as people. And the reason why I think that is because they're tools. They're robots. Like even though they're highly intelligent, even though they look like us, they talk like us. I think there's still a fine line between people, robots, and even animals. We don't consider a dog a human. I think there's a good distinction between using that term people. How else are we going to differentiate from a robot, from an animal, from a human?
Yeah, but what if they think and well, they think like us as well? Because a dog doesn't think like us. Animals don't think like us, but when we create a robot, we can make it think like us. We can make it act like us. We can make the robot essentially be us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely understand. Like you can we can basically create a robot that mimics like 99% of what a human can do. But
And you
that's
still wouldn't consider a robot, or you still wouldn't consider the robot a person, even if they're like 99.9% look, feel, think like us.
I'm gonna stop you there. I don't know about feel. Are you suggesting that they have emotion as well?
No. So wait. So are you saying that emotion is a criteria
I
to
would say
become?
emotion. I would say emotion is definitely up there in terms of what I guess what constitutes as being a human being. Because what other, I guess, species in the world has both intelligence and emotion?
Uh, a lot.
Well, okay, well then scratch that. Edit that part out.
Me personally, I would consider robots to be people because they are, even though they are artificial, they are still a sort of humanoid. Just because we made them artificially doesn't mean that they shouldn't be considered as people.
Well, I still think that robots shouldn't be considered people, because, like I said, a criteria to be considered a person or a human being would definitely be emotion. Um,
So what if we do program emotion onto a robot? Would you consider them a person then?
so you're saying that if a robot has,
No, because you're saying the criteria for being a person is if they have emotion. So what if we go in and program emotion into the robot?
so okay, so if they do have emotion, so if they have emotion, they're highly intelligent, they look like us, um,
Yeah, so
then
it's like pretty much everything's the same except, they don't have blood, they don't have DNA.
I I'm still against it. Um, I don't want to be like some negative Nancy or anything like that, but I'm against it, and the reason why is, well, I mean, humans have a very unique, or not really unique, but okay, so humans, they have emotion, they're intelligent, they have blood. I get DNA.
So sorry,
Not blood.
you're adding
Scratch that.
another
No, scratch that. Let me
criteria.
scratch that. Let me scratch that. All right. So humans, they have emotions. They're highly intelligent. They have DNA, and that those are some of the I guess credentials to be considered a human and to
Okay.
be considered as, yeah, as humans.
No, so I think what you're getting at here is the sort of like holistic definition of people. What I'm talking about is the sort of legal definition of a person, because legally in the U.S. corporations are somewhat a quasi person, and you're talking kind of like this kind of holistic definition of what people are. And if that's where you're kind of referring to, then yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think a robot can ever be a person in that sense. But I'm just talking about in terms of a legal sense, you know?
Legally speaking, yeah, robots can be considered as people.
Okay. And I just want to put it out there that I don't believe corporations should be considered as people. That's a terrible Supreme Court ruling, by the way. Why don't we do this? Why don't we let's assume legally that robots are considered people, and so in that case, the 13th Amendment, which forbids slavery, are
Okay.
robots considered slaves?
We're under an assumption that
Yeah, well, right now
the
we're assuming
under
robots are considered
considered
legally
people.
as people.
Okay.
So does that
Uh,
mean robots are considered as slaves? And if so, does that mean that it's illegal to sort of own a robot? To me, I think this is sort of a really weird gray area because it's like, yes, if you consider robots as people, then technically it should be illegal to own a robot. But at the same time, they are, you consider them as, you know, a tool or
yeah,
a
exactly,
or
exactly.
an appliance similar to like your smartphone.
Right,
It's just
right.
it's just like a jazzed up version of your smartphone or computer or whatever you want.
Right, but
And
and someone can even look at it as like since you're the sole owner of this robot, you bought it from the store from when you flipped it on, turn on the power and everything. That's essentially like having your kind of a son or daughter in a way. And do you charge do
In
you
that case, if you're saying like it's like having your son or daughter or whatever, does that make them like your slave,
Wait, are
or
you
you
saying
consider
no,
them
no,
like your children?
are you saying that once you do have a son or daughter, they're considered your slaves when they do the
No, no,
chores
okay.
and all that?
So you are sort of kind of putting them in like a familial sort of role.
Yeah, I mean I mean, if you're gonna be if you're gonna be, let's say you bought like 10 of them and they're doing like every little thing, like micromanaging all of them, then maybe that'll be considered illegal because you're not respecting them as human beings. You're just treating them as very one dimensional. Whereas if you were, I don't know, considered as like a son or daughter, and you're like, hey, wash the dishes, and stuff like that, and I'll still change your oil, or
What about in the
stuff like
case
that.
if what about in the case if a say a corporation buys like 100 robots? Would you consider them like all part of like the family of the corporation or whatever? What about in that case?
I would say, yeah. I mean, if let's say, yeah. So if a corporation buys like 100 of them and they're working and everything, what's the trade-off here? Like how well are they being treated? Because legally they're considered people and people have rights. So if they are being mistreated, then we have an issue. Then it'll be considered illegal. That's considered borderline slavery. However, if they were to, let's say, they have I don't know. They get like routine, maintenance checkups. It's like
You're
a it's
you're
like a
in a
trade
really
off.
slippery slope right now, dude. Well, we both
Right.
agree that this is
Yeah.
like a really kind of weird gray area, and that both of us aren't qualified
Qualified.
to really kind of comment on this. Let me know what you all think. Let's move on. So again, the sort of again, if we consider robots as people, what sort of rights should they have? And I think one of the sort of most important ones that we kind of hold very dear to us as Americans is the First Amendment. The right to free speech. So, do you think that it's illegal to limit the speech of robots?
They are considered people, and so they should be entitled to say whatever they want.
Okay, no, I agree with you. I guess next would be, as I'm an engineer and I do a lot of programming,
Hmm.
and part of my job is to sort of just writing code in general. And one of the important things that engineers will have to do is sort of to write the code and program for these robots. Do you think engineers like myself can write code so that they filter out certain things that a robot can say? I guess some examples of this would be, criticizing the government or racism, or let's say critiquing the company that makes that robot. Like, do you think the engineer should have that power, or is that kind of in violation of free speech?
I would say no. They shouldn't have the ability to tinker with the robots' speech patterns and whether or not they should filter out certain things. I don't think a engineer should be able to filter things out.
Why not?
Um, well, that for one, it goes against the First Amendment, free speech.
Uh-huh.
If the robot kind of has like a fixed pattern of speaking, or has a limitations, maybe it wants to say certain things about the government or wants to be racist, then it should be entitled to say and speak its mind, and not have
uh,
someone influence um,
like
the
what they're
thought
saying.
process. Yeah.
Um, so I'm not a lawyer, but I kind of talked about this in an earlier episode when I talked about free speech. The First Amendment only applies to the government, so government can limit your free speech, or the government cannot limit your free speech. But if a robot is being manufactured by a private company, then they don't have to follow that First Amendment. They can limit your speech however they want. And similar to kind
Like
of what,
Facebook.
yeah, kind of like it's kind of like similar to what Facebook's doing right now. You know how they are kind of getting a lot of
Oh yeah, a lot of heat.
a
Yep.
lot
Yep.
of hate
Yeah.
because of the election and how certain things are being filtered on your newsfeed and stuff like that. And
Yep.
like there's certain algorithms that kind of filter those things out. You see, they're completely able to do that because they're a third party, or not third party. They're a private company, and you've agreed to their terms of service
I see.
when you signed your life away without reading the thing. You just
You
clicked
scroll
accept on
down
the
and just
TOS.
accept.
Exactly. So you've given them permission to pretty much limit your free speech, and I think something similar will happen when you buy a robot, is with the understanding that you have to agree to the company's terms of service with that robot,
Yeah.
so they could pretty much do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
And
Um.
to me, I think that's fair, because that's exactly what a private company is able to do. So I have no problems and issues with that. And the customer or whoever's buying the robot, I think they should also have discretion on the sort of company that's making that robot. And if there is certain filters on that robot that the customer or whoever's buying it kind of knows, then it's up to their discretion whether or not to buy that robot.
Okay. Oh yeah. Then I completely agree. If it's in the term of services, then yeah, I guess no free speech. It's whatever. Yeah. Lost the word.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
All right. So what about the right to vote? Do you think robots should be able to vote?
Ooh. That's a fat no.
I mean, if robots are people, then shouldn't they be able to vote for who they want representing them?
No. Um, I don't think robots should have the right to vote.
Why not?
For one, you can easily mass produce robots
Uh
and
huh.
like tens of the thousands and millions at a faster rate than humans can. And if we if we total the sum of the robots,
Hmm.
and if they all, I guess, choose in their best interest, like one, I don't know, like a candidate that's for robots and stuff like that. That's like tens of thousands of
like illegal votes, or you would say, or
Kind
illegitimate votes, or
kind of illegitimate votes.
oh, so you're saying like a company can like mass produce like 1,000 robots and make them all vote
For
like
or
for their own
against.
interests or whatever.
Yeah, in a way like that. Yeah.
Okay, no, okay, yeah, no, I see where you're going at. I personally think that they should not be able to vote. Kind of similar to your reasoning is that you can get a lot of kind of voter fraud. It's very easy for people to go into a robot and change its programming, and that's very different from you and I. Some people like people can't go into our minds and mind control us.
Hardwire it. Yeah.
I'm sorry to everyone out there who believes in mind control, but it doesn't exist. But yeah,
Hey, I believe it.
you do.
Nah.
And if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the United States government kind of foot into mind control, check out I think like episode 12. Not 12, like episode 6, MK Ultra.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug. It's about how the FBI tried to control people's minds using LSD. It's a really fun episode. Go check it out.
Anyways.
Shameless plug aside. What about the 16th Amendment, which is income tax? So if we replace robots to do our jobs for us, do you think that they should get paid for the work they do? So let's say if a company buys robots and replaces all of the humans in that job with robots, do you think companies need to pay those robots? Number one.
Uh, I honestly no.
No.
No. If I understand the question correctly, should they get paid, and if so, do they need to pay taxes?
Yes.
Uh, no, I
No
don't
to
think.
both, or
No,
no to getting paid?
well, basically, yeah, no to both. The reason why I think it's a fat no is when was the last time you went to Target?
Uh, just like like 2 hours ago.
So Target has self checkouts, and that's
Yeah.
in a way it's similar to I guess a robot, just
Uh
without the
huh.
advanced artificial intelligence and and the talkbacks and all that. But corporations like like Target, Bonds, and all that, they have these self checkouts, and the reason why they kind of mass they buy these self checkouts is to emulate it's to speed up
It's to
production and
save costs on
efficiency.
labor,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But do we pay these self checkouts? Do we
I
do we pay
guess the
taxes?
thought process is there's a large like upfront cost, and eventually over time it will pay for itself, or and you'll save money in the long term.
Right, but what I'm saying is, do we
Do you pay
do we
those
do we
machines?
yeah do we cut a self checkout a check every month?
No, we don't.
Exactly. So I think to answer your question, no.
What about the taxes though?
Okay, you convinced me. Um,
Because me personally, I think
taxes are important. I would
yeah,
say
yeah. No, no,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
go
I
ahead.
would say no to the jobs. I mean, no to them getting paid, but yes to the taxes, because the government needs funding and they need
Yeah,
money.
exactly. I agree. Like robots, they shouldn't get paid, or they don't need to get paid a sort of salary, like an hourly wage or whatever.
Right.
I think in lieu of that, the company should be paying the income tax portion of it. So, for example, if a robot replaces a worker that earns like minimum wage, they should be paying what a human worker would have had to
I
pay
see. I see where
in
you're going with this.
taxes.
I see where you're
So
going with this.
let's say a robot does 8 hours of work. A person earning like $8 an hour for that 8 hours would have made $64 that day. And so with that 64 dollars, they pay a certain portion of that to income taxes, and I think that portion of it, the company should be paying
Okay,
because
I agree.
if robots replace all people in all these jobs, then the government won't be getting any money. We won't have any money for roads or whatever that we need. So I think it's important that, or the government's still getting some revenue one way or another. Whether or not the tax bracket for robots is the same as humans, that is sort of another discussion for another day.
Right.
But I mean that's what I believe
No, I
that we
completely
should
agree.
do.
I 100% agree with you.
So I know we just talked about you know assuming that robots are considered as humans. Why don't we
Mhm.
take a step back and say, okay, what if they're not considered as people? What if, let's say, they're in this gray area instead? They're somewhere in between a human and an animal. There are human rights and animal rights. So maybe the rights of robots are kind of like in between the human rights and animal rights. Would you agree? Is that a fair assessment? Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah.
So if we go off that, do you think that robots should have a right against cruelty? So is it okay to abuse your robot? Like, can you physically abuse it?
So you're saying that can we abuse when you said your robot, I'm assuming it's basically your property?
Any sort of robot.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about just going up to a random robot that's not yours and abuse it, I think that's more vandalism at this point. Similar to how you don't just go up to someone's car or someone else's phone and trash it. However, on the flip side, if you were to trash your own car or destroy your own phone, then that you're hurting your own wallet at this point, and you're entitled to do whatever you want to it. It's similar to like your smartphone. Like it's up to you whether or not you want to wreck your smartphone or
Uh-huh.
not. But ideally, you probably don't want to because that's like $1,000. Uh, it, versus like your robot. Why would you damage your own property when you need it to properly function in order to do its daily task and stuff like that? There's no reason to abuse it, but I feel like you can abuse it. It's just not in your best interest to.
Wait. So are you saying that abuse is not strictly illegal? So you can abuse your
Well,
robot?
behind closed doors, I'm sure there's a lot of abuses that go behind. Like, for example, you're a parent to their kid.
I mean,
Uh,
that's illegal though.
that is illegal. However, it's kind of also in the gray area as well. There's beating your child, and that's definitely illegal. However, on the flip side, someone could argue that it's discipline. You're not beating them where they're bloody. You're beating them as a, I mean, psychologists use this as well. It's called negative reinforcement. It's basically you want to kind of deter them from certain behaviors. So you want to like kind of let them know what is right, what is
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, but is that ethical though? Like, well,
Well,
I know that we can do it, but should we do it?
if you're gonna be throwing ethics into this mix, it
No,
would definitely.
this is kind of what I'm referring to is like the sort of ethical side of things. Like,
I would.
should we be able to abuse our robot? Like, is there anything like ethical? Um, do you think that is should kind of stop us or prevent us from like abusing our robot?
I don't think there should be anything stopping us. We can do
Okay.
whatever we want to the robot, whether or not we abuse it or not. But like I said, it's in our best interest to not abuse it. It's only hurting you in the long run. Um,
I mean,
if you're abusing it for the sole reason of hurting it, like you get satisfaction from tormenting this robot, then it's more of a that's definitely illegal. And anyways, I digress. But um,
if we're putting robots, like the rights of robots, in between human and animal rights, then wouldn't you say that abuse is kind of illegal, or you shouldn't be able to abuse it because kind of going back to what you mentioned before about only hurting your own robot. You shouldn't be able to go to your neighbor's dog
exactly.
and kick your neighbor's dog or whatever.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, you can't do that. It's vandalism or abuse at this. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so you
yeah.
don't think that applies to your robot or any sort of robot?
No, that's exactly what I said earlier. You can't just go up to someone else's iPhone and destroy it. Similarly, you can't just go up to someone else's robot and hurt it. It's vandalism.
Oh, so you would consider it more as like a misdemeanor vandalism than like actual like strike against like humanity or robotics or animals. Like you wouldn't say it's like
Robot
animal
rights.
or like
Yeah.
robot cruelty. So it's like animal cruelty.
Yes.
Just as in
Or just leave it at that. But no. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say animal rights it was I guess invented or animal rights came to be because as humans, I guess in a way see ourselves a little bit more superior than animals. Bear with me.
okay.
And I feel like we should have like a need to look after stuff kind of below us. It's I know I just bear with me.
Okay.
But robots, they are in every way superior than us. They think they process thoughts a lot faster than us. They're stronger than us. They're definitely more capable than us. And if you look at it in that way, it's okay. Never mind. I have no idea where I'm going with this.
Just answer the question. So, is it okay to abuse your robot, or is there? Do they have a right against cruelty? Do you think that robots have a right against cruelty? I personally think that yes, they should have a right against cruelty. Like you shouldn't be able to go to your robot or any other person's robot and like slap it across the face or like kick it or just kind of like do injury to it. Like that's not right.
Right.
So I
But
think they should have sort of protection against that sort of cruelty, similar
right.
to how you can't go and kick your neighbor or your neighbor's dog or whatever.
Right. But there's also that'll be it's like vandalism. You're
Yeah. Okay.
it's someone else's property.
Wait, are you saying like the severity of the sort of crime isn't as severe, or
Yeah, essentially. I mean, like if you have, I mean, if more, I guess the question is if you're okay. Let's assume the person is emotionally attached to the robot, and something happens,
mm-hmm,
or let's say the example is a dog and a robot,
mm-hmm,
and the person owns both of them. Let's say
right,
one of them dies, one or the other dies. Let's say, for example, where the dog dies
uh-huh,
because of this, because their neighbor kicked it. Um,
yeah.
that would be considered. No, never mind. I got nothing going with this.
Wait, so do you think so? Is it okay to abuse your robot? Are you saying no, but it's not as severe as with a human or an animal?
Yeah, it's not as severe. Because even if your robot is destroyed, you can recover it. It feels no pain. It's there's there's no emotion or well, yeah, it feels no pain, and I think it's I think it's okay if you want to abuse your robot, not someone else's, but only yours. Um,
Wait, what? You're wait, now you're saying it's okay to abuse your robot?
no. I'm saying I'm trying to say is I'm like for and against it.
What's there for abusing your
Not for again,
how
not
can you
for.
be
I'm saying
for and against abusing?
no. Like abuse itself in general, I am against. But I'm
Uh-huh.
saying, but if we're talking strictly about a robot here, like it's comparable to like your iPhone. It's compared
Okay.
to so it's like you can't go up to someone else's iPhone and destroy it.
Yeah.
Okay, but however, on the flip side, you can destroy your own iPhone. It just hurts your own
Okay.
wallet. That's what I'm
Okay.
comparing it to. Okay.
Okay.
Abuse
Okay.
itself, I am against. However,
Uh-huh.
if we're strictly talking about robots, you can do whatever you want. How, but
Okay. Okay. No, no, I get it
right.
now.
Okay. But
uh,
like, in the extreme case where your robot ends up dying or being destroyed, you can
mhm.
recover or reboot it, and it doesn't feel no pain either. So
I mean, like,
it's
what if it dies?
recover.
What do you mean recover? Let's
Does it
let's
have a
let's say
memory
like
chip?
the hard drive and like the motherboard, like everything's just is fried. Like someone poured water on it and it's gone.
Oh, that means they were deliberately trying to kill it. And I'm and if you're gonna be this high tech, then I don't think water is gonna be. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be waterproof. But in the extreme
Uh,
case, let's say someone shot his hard drive. Let's go with that. Someone knew where the hard
okay.
drive was, shot it.
So you're saying someone like deliberately murdered. Well, murder is deliberate. So let's say
Right,
someone murdered your robot. Like
right,
someone shot it with like a 12 gauge,
right,
right through the head, and
right through the command post. You know
yeah.
the memory. Right. Um. Then yeah, yeah. That's murder.
Well, you
That's
you consider that murder?
Yeah. If that were to happen, then I would consider it murder, because
Oh damn! Oh
because
snap, dude.
because
All right.
it'll be unrecoverable,
Uh huh.
and this robot I would have emotion invested in,
Yeah.
and it was basically a part of my family, like my a son or daughter,
Right.
and so
Or dog if you're John Wick.
or right.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with his robot. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But yeah, I would consider it murder and not vandalism at this point. However, before I continue, I just want to point out that if you destroy my robot and I was able to recover it, I guess during the court ruling, it'll be played off as vandalism. However, if I
Vandalism,
right,
not assault.
uh,
Because that's a pretty big jump. You know,
well,
if
yeah,
you
you're
shoot
right. Yeah,
if you
you're
shoot
right.
a
You're
robot
right.
and
You're
like
right.
it
You're right.
recovers,
Okay.
it's considered
Okay. Well,
vandalism.
I
But if
guess
you shoot it and it dies, it's considered murder.
Alright, okay,
That's a
I
huge
guess
jump.
let me reestablish this again. So, if it dies, it's murder. If it has a dent or whatever, then I guess it's assault. Vandalism, I guess it's when they kicked it or they spray painted my robot. Okay, let's go with that.
Okay.
Um,
So,
but yeah,
so
to answer the question, can you physically abuse your robot? Yes, you can, but like I said, it's not in your interest to do it. And if it's a part of your family,
uh,
if it's yeah, if it's yeah, if it's part of your family, you're probably not gonna be abusing it unless you try and discipline it. But that's a whole nother topic.
okay.
Like it'll listen.
uh,
It'll listen.
should we move on?
Yeah.
So I guess something else that's kind of really important to discuss is sexual assault. So, do you think it's considered rape to have sex with a robot, without its consent?
Are we talking about your own robot or someone else's robot or just all robots in general?
Any robot, just a robot in general.
Okay, because what if you own the robot?
I mean, I
And
guess the definition of rape is having sex without the other person or party's consent. You can't have sex with animals because animals can't give consent. Like they don't have the capability to give consent, which is why bestiality is illegal.
okay,
I guess in this case, are robots able to give consent?
yes, I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah.
I guess it depends whether or not it's in their program. Do they know what sex is? Um, yeah, if they don't know
So
what sex is,
let's say in your case, like they do know what sex is,
okay.
but are they able to consent to having sex?
Um, I think it's kind of. I think they'll be unable to consent. Um, although they might know what it is,
Uh-huh.
but I don't think they understand the practice of it.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of hard. They don't. It's like the robot won't be able to give consent. That's what I'm trying to
So
get at.
in that case, that means
It'll be
it is
rape at this
considered.
point.
Is it? That means you can't have sex with a robot at all. Like if they're not able to give consent, it's the same as with animals. That means you cannot have sex with robots.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If they
Um.
can't give
So
consent, yeah. Exactly. Similar
so
to yeah.
okay. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
No. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you.
No. No.
Go
No. Go
ahead.
for it. Go for it.
Okay, so what about, let's say, if a robot is designed specifically for sex? Because the adult entertainment industry, you know what I'm getting at here. So
Oh
let's say
man, not
you
this one.
buy a sex robot which is specifically designed for that purpose.
If if the sex robot is on the clock, meaning it's during its working hours, uh,
What do you mean by working hours? It's not like a sex worker or anything.
oh,
It's a
oh wait, let me establish something.
like
So
you own you let's say like you own the robot.
oh,
You know,
it's like a, you know,
it's a
gotcha. It's
Oh,
like a, you know, I know,
like
I know,
I don't know. I hope I don't get
planning,
flagged for
kids,
this. You know,
kids, planning, you know, I
it's
got
like
you,
it's
I
like a
got you.
toy. It's like one of your
The
toys.
pocket, got it.
It's like when you got one of your toys.
One of your pocket toys.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. We are so
Okay.
mature.
Okay, so if it's a sex robot and you own it, then by all means, yeah, it's yeah,
Okay, so would you agree? Like, if you own a robot specifically designed for
specifically
that
designed.
purpose,
Yeah,
would you consider it like when you purchase it, it's sort of already that purchase is the essential consent?
exactly.
Okay,
However, if
okay,
it's if it has to be only for you. If you have, I'm assuming you have to sign for it. It's in your, I guess, legal custody at this point.
okay.
If someone else were to, I guess, vandalize your robot, then that's considered
Vandalized.
rape, or not vandalize. If someone else rapes, I mean, has sex with your
Oh, yeah,
robot,
yeah.
that'll
If
be
someone else
considered
like,
rape.
yeah.
That'll
So
be
like, let's say some dude like breaks into your house
your neighbor
and
again. Your neighbor.
it
Okay,
sees some robot booty and he kind of does
that's
his thing with it.
interested. Right.
Then
That's
okay, so you're
considered
saying like that consent is only to the person who purchased said
exactly,
robot. Okay,
exactly.
no, I agree with you. I didn't think of that point, but yeah, no, that's awesome.
Uh,
But anyways, no, thanks for coming on.
yeah. Thanks for having me.
Anything you want to say?
Until next time, take care and stay fresh.
All right, see ya.